Once upon a time, there lived a very kind shoemaker and his wife. Sadly, no one bought his shoes anymore, and so the shoemaker, by no fault of his own, had become so poor that at last he had nothing left but enough leather for one pair of shoes. That evening he cut the leather into the shape of the shoes, and he left his work on the table to finish in the morning. As he lay down quietly in his bed, his wife consoled him. "Please don't worry," she said. "Everything will soon be all right. I just know it." The following morning, just as he was about to sit down to work, he saw the two shoes standing quite finished on his table. He was astounded and did not know what to make of it. The shoemaker took the shoes in his hands to look at them more closely, and he saw that they were so neatly made that there was not one bad stitch in them. They were the most beautiful shoes he had ever seen. Soon after, a customer came into the shop, and as the shoes pleased him so much, he paid double the usual price. Now the shoemaker had enough money to buy leather for 2 pairs of shoes. That night he cut out the leather, and the next morning he was about to set to work again with fresh hope for the future, when he saw that the shoes were already made. By now there was no shortage of customers who wanted his shoes, and the shoemaker soon had enough to buy leather for 4 pairs of shoes. The shoemaker went to bed, and the following morning he found that 4 pairs were made. And so it went on. Any leather that he cut out in the evening was finished by the morning. Soon the shoemaker and his wife were no longer poor, and had even become quite wealthy. One evening, not long before Christmas, the man finished cutting out the leather as usual, but this time his wife said to him, "Let's stay up tonight to see who it is that lends us such a helping hand." The shoemaker liked this idea, and he lit a candle, and then they hid themselves in the corner of the room behind some clothes which were hanging up there, and watched. As midnight struck, to their complete surprise, 2 little elves came into the room, both with tattered, torn clothes. The elves sat down by the shoemaker's table and began to take all the work which was cut out before them. The 2 elves stitched, and they sewed, and they hammered so quickly and so skillfully with their little fingers that the shoemaker could not turn away his eyes for his astonishment. They did not stop until all the work was done and the shoes stood finished on the table, and then, laughing and singing, they ran away quickly into the night. The next morning, the shoemaker's wife said, "These elves have made us so happy and so wealthy. We really must show them how grateful we are. They run about so and work so hard, but their clothes are ripped and worn, and they must be so cold. I'll tell you what I'll do. I will make them a pair of little shirts, coats, vests and trousers, and knit both of them a pair of warm stockings, and you can help too by making them 2 little pairs of shoes." One night, when everything was ready, the shoemaker and his wife laid their presents all together on the table instead of the cut-out leather, and then they hid themselves to see what the elves would do. Once again, at midnight, the elves came bounding in, singing and dancing, and wanting to get to work at once. But instead of finding any leather cut out for them, instead they only found the pretty little articles of clothing that the shoemaker and his wife had made them. They were at first puzzled, but then soon they became delighted. They dressed themselves quickly, putting their pretty new clothes on, and singing all the while. They danced and skipped and leaped over chairs and benches and tables, and then at last they danced out the door and into the night. From that time on, the elves came no more, but for as long as the shoemaker and his wife lived, he continued to make the most wonderful shoes in the whole town, and they never ever forgot the kind elves who had helped them in their time of need.